The rain hammered the windows of the old brick building like fists demanding entry, each drop a reminder that Seattle never let you forget your solitude. Gale stood frozen in the dim hallway, his knuckles hovering over the door marked Elias Hawthorne, Pitch of Literature. Heart pounding not from the storm outside but from the storm he carried inside, the one that had swallowed his final paper whole. He had come for salvation, a desperate plea to the man whose words in class ignited something forbidden in him. But as the door creaked open under his touch, revealing shadows that smelled of aged paper and unspoken longing, Gale wondered if he was stepping into rescue or ruin. Professor Elias Hawthorne looked up from his desk, glasses perched on the bridge of his nose, his salt and pepper hair catching the lamplight like threads of silver in twilight. At 38, he carried the weight of too many unwritten novels in the lines around his eyes that now fixed on Gale with an intensity that made the room shrink. "Mr. Ramirez?" Elias said, voice low and steady like the distant roll of thunder. "I was wondering when you'd finally break." Gale swallowed hard, the weight of his backpack, stuffed with crumpled notes and a laptop that held nothing but failure, pulling at his shoulders. He had always been the quiet one in Elias's seminar on American romanticism, the kid from the rainy edges of Tacoma who dreamed of words that could bridge the chasm between his conservative Catholic family and the secrets he harbored about himself. At 21, Gale was a junior at the University of Washington, majoring in English because it promised escape, a way to rewrite the script of his life where boys like him didn't end up invisible or worse, shunned. But tonight, with his thesis draft due in hours and his mind a blank siege of doubt, escape felt like a luxury he couldn't afford. I messed up the paper," Gale stammered, stepping inside as Elias gestured to the worn leather chair opposite the desk. The office was a sanctuary of controlled chaos. Towering shelves of leather-bound classics, a half-empty mug of black coffee steaming on a coaster, and a single framed photo of Elias with an older man. His late partner, Gale had overheard in whispers, smiling against a backdrop of Oregon pines. The air hung heavy with the scent of wet wool from Gale's hoodie, mingling with the earthy tang of Elias's cologne, something woodsy and unplaceable that made Gale's pulse stutter. Elias leaned back, fingers steepled, his button-down shirt sleeves rolled to reveal forearms corded with quiet strength from weekend hikes in the Cascades. He was the kind of man who commanded a room without raising his voice, his lectures weaving Emerson and Whitman into tapestries of raw human yearning that left students like Gale breathless, questioning the shape of their own desires. "Messed up how?" Elias asked, not unkindly, but with a probing edge that peeled back layers. Gale sank into the chair, rain dripping from his hair onto the faded Persian rug. "It's not coming together. The theme love as rebellion in 19th century prose. It's all in my head. But when I try to write it, it falls apart. Like I'm not allowed to touch it." His voice cracked on the last word, and he hated how exposed it made him feel, how the words echoed the deeper fracture. The one where his father's stern Bible readings clashed with the ache Gale felt watching the way light fell on a classmate's neck during lecture. Elias's gaze softened, but there was a spark there, something electric and unguarded. He stood, moving to the window where the city lights blurred through sheets of water, Seattle's skyline a jagged promise of anonymity. "Love as rebellion," he murmured, turning back. Whitman knew it well. "I am he that walks with the tender and growing night." You're not failing the paper, Gale. You're failing to let yourself be seen. They talked for an hour, Elias pulling threads from Gale's tangled thoughts, sketching outlines on a yellow legal pad with a pen that scratched like whispered confessions. The rain eased to a patter, and the office lamp cast long shadows that danced across Elias's face, highlighting the faint scar above his left eyebrow. A remnant, Gale learned later, from a bar fight in his wilder Portland days. By the time Gale's phone buzzed with a low battery warning, the paper had shape. A rebellion not just in ink, but in the way Elias's knee brushed his under the desk, accidental yet lingering. "You'll turn this in tomorrow?" Elias said, handing back the pad, their fingers grazing in a spark that neither acknowledged. "And Gale, come back next week. We can refine it. Office hours are sacred here." Gale nodded, standing too quickly, his heart a wild thing in his chest. As he stepped into the hallway, the door clicking shut behind him, he pressed a hand to his mouth, tasting salt from unshed tears or rain. He couldn't tell. That night, in his bunk bed staring at water-stained ceiling tiles, he replayed the evening. The way Elias's voice wrapped around his name like a promise, the forbidden thrill of being truly heard. Little did he know, those office hours would unravel him, thread by thread, into a love that burned brighter than any Pacific storm. But for now, Gale walked back to his dorm through puddles that reflected neon signs from Pike Place vendors closing late, the city humming with its indifferent pulse. Seattle was a place of layers, fog-shrouded hills hiding tech fortunes and forgotten artists, coffee shops where baristas knew your order but not your secrets. Gale had come here from Tacoma's steel mills and church suppers, chasing a degree that might lift him from the cycle of his father's mill shifts and his mother's quiet endurance. He shared a triple room in McCarty Hall with two straight guys from Spokane. Jake, the lacrosse player who blasted country anthems, and Theo, the poli-sci major who debated everything over cheap beer. They tolerated Gale's quiet reading habits, but he kept his poetry journal locked in his drawer, pages filled with verses about hands that lingered too long on shoulders. The next morning, Gale submitted the paper with minutes to spare, his fingers trembling over the enter key in the campus library's glow. Elias's feedback came via email that afternoon. A rebellion indeed, a plus, but more importantly, truth. Attached was a scanned page from Leaves of Grass, underlined, "I celebrate myself and sing myself." Gale printed it, folding the paper into his wallet like a talisman. Office hours became ritual. Every Thursday at dusk, when the autumn leaves turned the quad to fire, Gale would knock, and Elias would open the door with a smile that felt private, earned. They dissected Melville's ambiguities over mugs of tea from the electric kettle humming in the corner, Elias sharing stories of his own undergrad days at Reed College, where he first kissed a boy under an eclipse moon. "It changes you," Elias said one evening, as hail ticked against the panes. "Realizes you, but it demands everything." Gale listened, hungering for those stories like a man starved, his own confessions bubbling but unspoken. He was falling, he knew it. The way his dreams tangled Elias's face with ocean waves, the way he'd linger in the lecture hall after class, pretending to pack his bags slowly. Elias, for his part, kept a professional distance, but his eyes betrayed him. Lingering glances over the rims of glasses, a hand on Gale's shoulder that pressed just a beat too long. Winter crept in with its gray shroud, Seattle's famous dreariness mirroring the ache building in Gale's chest. Christmas break loomed, a return to Tacoma's fluorescent-lit living room where his father would ask about grades and his mother would press tamales into Tupperware, oblivious to the son who lay awake wondering if God forgave desires like his. He confessed this to Elias one sleeting night, the office heater rattling like old bones. "My family's traditional," Gale said, tracing the grain of the desk with his thumb. "Dad thinks Whitman was a drunk poet, not a prophet. If they knew about me, about this part of me, they'd pray it out or worse." Elias reached across, covering Gale's hand with his own, the touch seismic. "They don't get to define you, Gale. Not your fire, not your words." His thumb brushed Gale's knuckle, a circle of warmth that ignited something primal. Time suspended. The clock's tick faded, the world outside blurred to irrelevance. Then, as if awakening, Elias pulled back, clearing his throat. "I'm sorry. That was—" "Don't," Gale whispered, voice raw. "Please." Their lips met in the space of a breath, tentative at first, then fervent, Elias's hand cupping Gale's jaw as if he were a fragile manuscript. It tasted of tea and restraint shattered, of rain-soaked longing finally voiced. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the office a cocoon of shared breath. "This can't happen here," Elias murmured, even as his fingers tangled in Gale's hair. "Not like this." But it did. Stolen moments multiplied. A kiss in the stacks of Sazalo Library after hours, Elias's back against Melville's shelf. Hurried touches in Elias's apartment off campus, a loft in Capitol Hill where vinyl records spun Billie Holiday and the bed smelled of linen and pine. Gale learned the map of Elias's body, the freckles across his collarbone like constellations, the way he sighed Gale like a prayer during climax. Elias, in turn, coaxed out Gale's poetry, reading lines by lamplight that made him blush, verses of skin like parchment, love like a storm surge. Yet shadows lurked. Elias's ex, Marcus, a gallery owner in Portland, called sporadically, his voice tinny through the phone, stirring Elias's guilt. "We ended it years ago," he'd say, pulling Gale close. "You're mine now." But Gale saw the photo on the mantel, the one of two men hiking the gorge, and wondered if he was rebound or revelation. Spring thawed the city, cherry blossoms dusting the quad like confetti, but tension coiled. Jake, Gale's roommate, caught a whiff of cologne on his shirt one morning. "Dude, you smell like my uncle's aftershave. Got a sugar mama," and laughed it off, but the joke landed like a warning. Gale's grade soared, his thesis blooming under Elias's guidance, but isolation grew. He skipped parties, dodged dates with girls from his lit club, his world narrowing to Elias's orbit. The betrayal came on a humid May evening, the kind where Seattle pretended to be summer. Gale arrived at the loft unannounced, a bottle of cheap Merlot in hand, eager to celebrate his upcoming internship at a local press. The door was ajar, voices spilling out like smoke. He pushed in, heart seizing at the sight. Elias on the couch, Marcus beside him. Their hands intertwined, Marcus's head on Elias's shoulder as they spoke of rekindling over wine glasses. Elias's face drained of color. "Gale." Marcus turned, eyes narrowing. "Who's this?" The room spun. Gale dropped the bottle, glass shattering like his illusions, red wine pooling like blood. "You said it was over," he choked, backing away. "You said I was." "It is over." Elias stood, reaching. Marcus came to talk, to close the chapter. "This is nothing." But Marcus's laugh was sharp. "Nothing? He's the kid from your class, isn't he?" "Elias, tell me you didn't." Gale fled into the night, streets slick with drizzle, his sobs swallowed by traffic on Broadway. He ran to the waterfront, collapsing on a bench where ferries ghosted across the Sound, their lights mocking his darkness. Betrayal wasn't the act, he realized through the haze. It was the lie woven into every touch, every "I love you" whispered in the afterglow. Elias had plans, yes, but not for a future. For a distraction from his own unfinished grief. Days blurred into a fog. Gale skipped class, ignored emails from Elias pleading, "Let me explain." His phone a brick in his pocket. His thesis sat half-written, words mocking him from the screen. Jake noticed, offering a six-pack and gruff advice. "Chicks or whatever, man. Dump him and move on." If only it were that simple. Gale's mother called from Tacoma, sensing his silence. "Mijo, are you praying?" God fixes broken hearts. But God felt distant, complicit in the silence of his youth. Elias cornered him finally in the quad, under a canopy of budding maples, students milling like oblivious extras in their private drama. "I ended it with Marcus that night," Elias said, voice urgent, rain beating on his coat. "For good this time. It was closure, not Gale, please. You're the one who sees me, all the cracked parts." Gale's chest ached, torn between fury and the pull of those eyes, now rimmed red. "You used me to fill a space. I'm not your ghost story." "You're not," Elias insisted, stepping closer, the air charged. "You're my beginning, if you'll let me prove it." They talked for hours on a bench by the lake, words pouring like the downpour that followed. Elias confessing his fear of loving again after Marcus's death in a car wreck 2 years prior, how Gale's fire had thawed him. Gale admitted his terror of rejection, the internalized shame from sermons that branded him sinner. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but a truce. Tentative plans for coffee, no offices, no power imbalances. Elias resigned his advising role that week, citing personal reasons. A quiet sacrifice that spoke louder than pleas. Summer unfurled, Seattle's rare sun gilding the markets and marinas. Gale took the internship, editing manuscripts in a Queen and Attic office, his bylines blooming in indie journals. Elias invited him to his family's cabin in the Olympics, a weathered A-frame where loons called at dawn. There, away from academia's gaze, they hiked trails lined with ferns, cooked salmon over open fires, made love on quilts that smelled of cedar. Vulnerability deepened. Gale shared letters from his grandmother, faded missives from Mexico urging him to live true. Elias read from his unpublished novel, A Tale of Lost Loves Redeemed. But crisis loomed, inevitable as tide. Fall semester brought rumors, whispers in the department lounge about Elias's inappropriate involvement, fueled by a jealous TA who saw them at a cafe. The dean called Elias in, a stern woman with files and policies, demanding separation. Gale's father visited unannounced, touring the campus with a Bible in his coat pocket, his eyes sharpening at Gale's hesitance to join him for mass. "Something's off with you, son," he said over diner burgers. "This city's poisoning your soul." The breaking point came in October, leaves turning crimson like warnings. An anonymous email hit the department list. Photos of Gale and Elias at the cabin, blurred but unmistakable, time-stamped with accusations of abuse of authority. Chaos erupted. Elias suspended pending review. Gale hauled into counseling, his internship jeopardized by the scandal's ripple. Reporters from The Stranger sniffed around, turning their private ache into campus tabloid fodder. Gale confronted Elias in his now empty office, boxes of books stacked like tombstones. "This is what your plans get us," he said, voice hollow. "Ruined." Elias's face crumpled. "I never planned for this for you, but I'd do it again, every stolen moment, because you made me remember how to feel alive." They parted in fury, Gale crashing at a friend's sublet in Fremont. Nights spent staring at the Space Needle's glow, questioning if love was worth the wreckage. Isolation clawed. Friends distanced. Family called demanding explanations he couldn't give. In the depths, though, glimmers emerged. Support from the LGBTQ Center, a queer-lit circle where he read his poetry to nods of recognition. Therapy sessions unpacked the shame, reframing it as strength. Healing was jagged, not linear. Months passed. Winter solstice brought a tentative text from Elias. "The review cleared me, but without you it's hollow." Gale, now in a new apartment near the locks where salmon leaped upstream, replied, "Meet me at the market. No expectations." Under strings of lights at Pike Place, amid fishmongers' calls and flower stalls, they stood awkward, coats dusted with frost. Words faltered, but hands found each other, the touch a bridge over chasms. "I forgive you," Gale said finally, not for Elias, but for himself. "But I need time to rebuild." Elias nodded, eyes shining. "Take it. I'll wait." Spring returned, cherry petals swirling like confetti in renewal. Gale graduated, thesis defended with honors, his paper on love's rebellion now laced with their story's echoes. He landed a job at a Seattle publisher, editing voices like his own, marginal, fierce. Elias published his novel, dedicated obliquely to the boy who taught me dawn. They reconnected slowly. Brunches at Elliott Bay Book Company, hikes where silences spoke volumes. Love reformed, not as wildfire but steady hearth, acknowledging scars, honoring boundaries. Gale came out to his mother over video, her tears giving way to hesitant hugs. His father took longer, but a Father's Day card arrived. "Proud of the man you're becoming." On a July eve, 4th of America's fireworks bursting over the sound, Gale and Elias watched from a blanket on Alki Beach, hands laced. The explosions mirrored the journey. Bursts of pain, fades to quiet beauty. "We made it," Gale whispered, head on Elias's shoulder. Elias kissed his temple. Not made it, still making. Together. In the end, it wasn't perfection, but humanity. The grace in fractures, the rebellion in choosing joy amid storms. Seattle's rain fell soft now, a benediction on two men who had dared to rewrite their script, one vulnerable glance at a time. The summer after graduation stretched lazy and luminous, a rare gift from Seattle's capricious skies. Gale woke in his new studio apartment in Ballard, the kind of place with exposed brick and a view of the ship canal where barges chugged like weary travelers. Sunlight slanted through blinds, gilding the stack of manuscripts on his coffee table. His first assignments as an associate editor at Rainshadow Press, a boutique house specializing in Pacific Northwest voices. At 22 now, Gale felt the shift. No more syllabi dictating his days, just the blank page of possibility, though it terrified him as much as it thrilled. He brewed coffee strong and black, the machine gurgling like an old friend, and scrolled his phone over toast slathered in avocado from the farmer's market. Elias's text from last night glowed. Thinking of you under those stars. Hike tomorrow. A smile tugged at Gale's lips, warm as the brew sliding down his throat. Their rhythm had settled into this, gentle overtures, no pressure, spaces for breath. After the scandal's fallout, Elias had taken a sabbatical, teaching adjunct at a community college in Tacoma while penning his novel in stolen hours. The distance had been mercy, allowing Gale to unpack the debris. Therapy twice weekly in a cozy office overlooking Green Lake, where he voiced the shame that had knotted his gut since adolescence. That first session after the breakup, Gale had sat rigid on the couch, staring at his sneakers scuffed from frantic runs along the Burke-Gilman Trail. I feel like I deserved it, he'd admitted to Dr. Lena, a soft-spoken woman with silver streaks in her bob. The betrayal, like I'm too much or not enough for something real. Dr. Lena had leaned forward, her voice a steady anchor. Betrayal says more about the betrayer than the betrayed, Gale. But the pain, it's yours to hold, then release. What if loving yourself starts with believing you're worthy of the mess? Those words echoed now as he laced up boots for the hike, packing a thermos and a dog-eared copy of Pablo Neruda's love sonnets, Elias's favorite, a bridge from their literary origins. The trailhead at Discovery Park waited under a canopy of madronas and firs, the sound glittering below like shattered glass. Elias arrived on time, his Jeep rumbling up the gravel, emerging in cargo pants and a flannel that hugged his frame just so. At 40, he wore his years like burnished oak, lines that spoke of laughter reclaimed, eyes that held both storm and serenity. They embraced briefly, a hug that lingered in the press of chests, then fell into step on the loop trail. Ferns brushed their calves, the air thick with salal berries and sea salt. Conversation meandered. Gale's latest edit, a memoir by a trans fisherman from the San Juans. Elias's progress on Chapter 7, where his protagonist confronts a ghost lover in a rain-lashed cabin. It's you, in parts, Elias admitted, pausing to pluck a salmonberry, offering it to Gale on open palm. The fruit burst tart-sweet on his tongue, juice-staining fingers they wiped clean with shared care. Deeper in, where the path narrowed to roots and moss, vulnerability surfaced. I've been writing again, Gale said, voice hushed by the wood's whisper. Not for work, for me. Poems about the in-between, coming out the waiting rooms of the heart. Elias stopped, turning to face him, sunlight dappling his face through leaves. Read me one. Gale hesitated, cheeks warming, then pulled the folded paper from his pocket. His voice trembled at first, then steadied, reciting lines of bodies like harbors, loves that ebbed yet returned. Elias listened, unmoving, tears tracking silent paths down his temples when Gale finished. Beautiful, he breathed, pulling Gale into a kiss that tasted of earth and renewal, slow, deliberate, a vow etched in the dappled light. They made love that afternoon in Elias's cabin, a ritual space on the Hood Canal where cedar walls cradled their sighs. No rush, just exploration. Fingers tracing scars, mouths mapping forgiveness. Afterward, tangled in sheets, Elias spoke of his own healing. The grief group in Belltown where widowers shared stories of Marcus, not as burdens but beacons. Losing him taught me love's fragility, he said, hand splayed over Gale's heart. You taught me its resilience. Fall crept back, leaves carpeting the city in gold and rust. Gale's routine solidified. Mornings at the press, afternoons at queer open mics in Capitol Hill cafes, evenings with Elias over home-cooked pozole or stir-fries, their apartments alternating like breaths. but undercurrents stirred. His father, Ramon, a welder at the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, had softened incrementally. Phone calls now included questions about that writing job, laced with gruff pride. Yet when Gail hinted at someone special, Ramon's silence stretched like a fault line. The call came on a crisp November Saturday. Gail elbow-deep in edits when his phone trilled. "Mijo, your mother's not well," Ramon said, voice gravel rough. Heart flutters. "Come home." Panic surged, hot and immediate. Gail drove south through sheets of rain, wipers slashing like accusations. Elias's offer to join waved off. Family first. Tacoma greeted him with its industrial hum. Smokestacks belching against gray skies. The childhood home a squat rancher with Virgin Mary statues in the yard. Inside, the air smelled of Vicks VapoRub and Arroz con Pollo. His mother, Sophia, pale on the couch, her smile frail but fierce. "Oh, Gail," she whispered, pulling him down for an embrace that smelled of lavender soap and worry. "You look tired. Working too hard." They talked late into the night, Sophia propped on pillows, Ramon hovering with herbal teas. She confessed her fears. Not just the arrhythmia, but the years of unspoken aches. Migrating from Guadalajara at 18, marrying young, raising 3 boys in a land that demanded assimilation. "I wanted better for you," she said, hand in his. "Free to be. You." The words cracked something open. Dawn found Gail in the kitchen, brewing cafecito, when Ramon shuffled in, flannel pajamas rumpled. "She told me," he grunted, pouring sugar like it was penance, "about your feelings." "The boy." Gail froze, mug midway to lips. "And," Ramon sighed, heavy as the mill's hammers. "Bible says one thing, life says another. I pushed you too hard, Mijo. Seeing her like this reminds me we don't get forever." He clapped Gail's shoulder, awkward but real. "Bring him next time. Meet the family." Tears pricked, but Gail blinked them back, nodding. Relief washed, mingled with the deeper work ahead. Back in Seattle, he shared the story with Elias over dim sum in the International District, steam rising from bamboo baskets like ghosts dispersed. "It's a start," Gail said, chopsticks pausing. "Not perfect, but mine." Elias's eyes crinkled. "That's the rebellion, love. Claiming your story, page by page." Winter holidays tested the fragile peace. Gail hosted a small gathering at his place. Theo from college, now a barista with a boyfriend in tow. A few press colleagues. Elias arriving with tamales wrapped in corn husks, his presence a quiet anchor. Laughter filled the space. Stories of disastrous dates, debates over the best IPA. But when midnight struck, confetti popping from poppers, Gail pulled Elias onto the fire escape, city lights twinkling below. "Last year, I was shattered," Gail murmured, breath fogging the rail. "This year, whole." Elias drew him close, lips brushing ear. "To us, to the plans we make together." But plans, as ever, shifted. Spring brought Elias's novel acceptance. A quiet press in Portland, publication set for fall. Promotion meant readings, interviews, a spotlight Gail wasn't sure he wanted to share. Doubts crept. Paparazzi from the old scandal sniffing for sequels. Anonymous comments on Elias's author page-dredging, predator labels. "What if they come for you again?" Gail asked one rainy April night, curled on the couch as thunder grumbled. Elias stroked his hair. "They might, but we're not that story anymore. We're this one." Graduation echoes lingered in Gail's mind. The ceremony where he'd walked the stage, diploma in hand, Elias in the crowd with a discreet bouquet of sunflowers. Now, at 23, he mentored interns at the press, his own chapbook of poems circulating in small presses. Vulnerability became his ink. Readings at Elliott Bay where he voiced queer longing to packed rooms. Applause a balm on old wounds. Yet crisis simmered. Sophia's health stabilized, but Ramon faced layoffs at the mill. Economic ripples from port strikes. "Need a loan," Gail offered, but pride bristled. "We're family, we handle it." Elias suggested a fundraiser reading, his networks in the arts community eager. The event at a Fremont gallery drew crowds. Authors reciting under string lights, proceeds to mill workers' aid. Gale emceed, voice steady, but midway, a heckler from the fringes. A burly man with a cross necklace shouted, "This your kind of charity, Professor? Grooming the next generation." Gasps rippled. Elias stepped to the mic, calm as lake water. "Love isn't grooming, it's grace. And tonight, that's what we're giving." The room erupted in support, the heckler ushered out, but the venom lingered, a reminder of battles unfinished. That night, in bed, Gale traced Elias's jaw. "You didn't have to." "I did." Elias cut in gently. "For you. For us." Summer swelled again, the cycle turning. They escaped to the cabin, kayaking the canal where orcas sometimes surfaced like myths. One evening, as dusk painted the water violet, Elias knelt on the dock, a simple silver band in hand. Not proposal, he clarified, but promise. To the future we build, whatever shape. Gale slipped it on, tears falling free. Yes, to all of it. Autumn leaves crunched underfoot as Gale navigated the familiar paths of the university district. Not as student now but visitor, dropping off a guest lecture packet for a former colleague of Elias's. At 23, the campus felt smaller, its brick arches and espresso carts a chapter closed yet echoing. Rain misted the air, turning the world's soft focus, and he quickened his pace toward the press office, thoughts drifting to the reading tour Elias was prepping. First stop Portland, then Eugene, a whirlwind of spotlights and signings for Echoes in the Rain. The novel that had already garnered whispers of acclaim. Back at Rainshadow, the office buzzed. Interns collating proofs, the senior editor, Marisol. A fierce Chicana with tattoos of Quetzal on her arms, waving him into her glass-walled nook. "Your chapbook mock-ups gold, Gale," she said, sliding a bound galley across. "Publish next spring. We're betting on you." Pride swelled, tempered by the ring's subtle weight on his finger. A talisman against doubts. He texted Elias a photo of the cover. Simple black with embossed waves, his name in elegant sans serif. Reply buzzed instant. "Stunning. Like its maker. Dinner tonight, your pick." They met at a hole-in-the-wall faux spot in the U District, steam curling from bowls of broth fragrant with star anise and basil. Elias arrived windswept from a faculty mixer, tie loosened, recounting a debate over queer subtext in Hawthorne. Ironic, given their history. Laughter flowed easy, but under it, Gale sensed the undercurrent. Elias's eyes flicking to his phone, a Portland contact confirming hotel details. "You're worried," Gale said, slurping noodles, direct as ever. Elias set down chopsticks. "The tour, it's exposure. Good exposure. But after last year's miss." He trailed, squeezing Gale's hand under the table, calluses from guitar strings rough against smooth skin. "We've built walls," Gale replied. "Higher ones. And I've got your back." The tour launched mid-October, Elias boarding a train south, laptop and manuscripts in tow. Gale saw him off at King Street Station, a kiss stolen in the shadow of the clock tower, tasting of goodbye and ginger tea. Days stretched. Mornings editing a debut novel by a non-binary poet from Spokane. Afternoons at the gym pounding out anxieties on the treadmill. Evenings video calls where Elias's face pixelated in hotel rooms, voice husky from readings. Feedback trickled in glowing. Hawthorne's prose sings loss and lust. One review cooed. Sold-out crowds in bookshops scented with ink and lattes. Pride mingled with pang. Gale scrolling socials, liking posts of Elias mid-recital, sharp in tweed under stage lights. A week in, during a call from a Salem motel, Elias's tone shifted. "Miss you. The bed's too big. Come down for the weekend." Gale booked the ticket, heart light. The drive down I-5 unfolded in golden hour, evergreens blurring past, radio crooning indie folk about open roads. Portland welcomed with its bridges and brewpubs. Elias waiting at Union Station in a wool overcoat, arms open. They tumbled into his suite at the Nines, city views sprawling below, shedding clothes like old skins. Lovemaking was reunion. Urgent, then languid, bodies recounting absences in gasps and grips. Saturday's reading at Powell's City of Books drew hundreds, shelves towering like redwoods around the stage. Gail sat front row, anonymous in the throng, watching Elias weave tales of fictional lovers mirroring their own. Betrayals mended, desires unbound. Q&A turned personal. A young man, barely 20, asked haltingly, "Your book, it helped me come out. How do you know when it's worth the risk?" Elias's gaze found Gail's. "When it sets you free. The risk is illusion. Love's the only real thing." Applause thundered, but later, over craft cocktails at a Pearl District bar, the young man approached, eyes wide. "I'm Alex. That was everything." Conversation sparked. Alex, a barista poet, fresh from community college, his story echoing Gail's. Small-town Oregon roots, family fractures. Elias mentored gently, tips on submissions, but Gail felt a twinge, irrational yet insistent. The echo of their beginning, power laced with pull. Back in the room, as rain pattered the windows, Gail voiced it. "He looks at you like I did. Hungry." Elias chuckled, drawing him close. "And I look at you like I do. Past tense for him, present for us." November brought Thanksgiving, a tentative bridge. Gail invited Elias to Tacoma, Sophia insisting on "the man who's making my boy smile." The drive was quiet, hands linked over the console. The house brimmed, Sophia's mole poblano simmering, Ramon carving turkey with unpracticed flair, Gail's older brothers, Carlos the mechanic, Diego the nurse, arriving with wives and toddlers in tow. Tension hummed at first, sidelong glances at Elias's easy charm, Ramon's stiff handshake. But wine loosened tongues, stories flowing like gravy. Diego shared hospital tales of queer patients finding family in unexpected places. Carlos admitted to a coworker crush he'd buried young. Elias fit, recounting Portland escapades with humor, helping Sophia with dishes while Gail chased nieces in the yard. By pie, Ramon raised a glass. To new traditions, and to love that sticks. Tears stung, gratitude thick. That night, in Gail's boyhood room, posters of soccer stars faded. Elias whispered, "Your family's grace. It's yours too." Winter deepened, holidays a blur of lights and logs. They hosted a solstice party in Ballard's Viking-themed hall, friends toasting mulled wine under evergreen boughs. Gail read from his chapbook draft, voice carrying over the crowd. Verses of rings exchanged in secret, storms weathered. Elias's eyes, across the room, held pride like sunlight. But under the joy, fissures. Elias's tour residuals funded a down payment on a queen and bungalow, a fixer-upper with bay windows and a garden plot. "Our place?" he asked one snowy eve, keys jingling. Gail hesitated, his lease secure, career ascending, fearing merger too soon after fractures. "Let's paint it first," he said, kissing Elias's doubt away. Weekends became labor, sanding floors to honey glow, choosing tiles in cerulean for the bath. Sweat and sawdust bonded them, laughter and mishaps, a dropped gallon of primer splattering jeans. Spring bloomed defiant, tulips rioting in the university district beds. Gail's chapbook launch packed a Georgetown warehouse gallery, supporters spilling onto patios with IPAs. Elias emceed, voice warm. "Gail Ramirez doesn't just write love, he lives it." Signings followed, hands shaking his, words of resonance. "Your words named my silence." Post-party, in the bungalow's half-finished kitchen, champagne fizzing. They danced to Coltrane on a portable speaker, bodies swaying in lamplight. "Proud," Elias murmured. "So damn proud." Yet shadow loomed. Sophia's checkup revealed spots on her lungs, early but insistent. "We'll fight," she said over FaceTime, Ramon nodding grimly. Gail drove down weekly, Elias joining when tours allowed, bringing books and bad jokes. Chemo started, Sophia's hair shedding like autumn, but her spirit held, knitting scarves for the grandkids, quizzing Gail on plot twists. Crisis peaked in June, a humid night when Ramon called at 2 a.m. "She's gone into labor." "No, wait." Sophia's at the breathing bed. Tires screeched on wet pavement, Elias behind the wheel, hand on Gail's knee. Hospital fluorescence buzzed harsh. Doctors murmuring of pneumonia complicating treatment. Vigil stretched. Family in the waiting room, prayers mingling with beeps. Dawn broke as Sophia stabilized, oxygen mask fogging with her breaths. Gail held her hand, whispering sonnets in Spanish, Elias at his side, thumbs circling Gail's wedding band promise. You too, Sophia rasped, eyes crinkling. My anchors. Recovery was slow, summer a haze of hospital runs and home care. Gail took leave, editing remotely, his focus splintered. Elias cooked broths, read aloud from light novels, his presence a steady tide. One afternoon, as Sophia napped, Ramon pulled Gail aside in the garage, tools gleaming on pegboards. Your mother's fight, it's ours. And you, Mijo, with him. It's right. I see it now. Tears fell unchecked. Embrace rough but real. Fall approached, Sophia homebound but healing, scans clearer. The bungalow neared completion. Walls painted sage, garden yielding tomatoes. Elias's second book deal landed. A sequel of sorts, Gail's poems inspiring a chapter. On a September equinox, they walked the locks, salmon thrashing upstream in silver determination. We've lost, we've gained, Gail said, wind tugging hair. But here, solid. Elias stopped, facing him. Marry me. For real. Vows. Rings, the whole wild thing. Gail's yes was breath. Then kiss, the canal witnessing their vow. The engagement settled like dew on Seattle's evergreens, subtle yet nourishing. Gail and Elias chose a courthouse ceremony for November, small, secular, surrounded by close kin under the Central Library's glass pyramid. Sophia, wig askew but eyes bright, walked Gail down the makeshift aisle of potted ferns, Ramon at her elbow. Vows exchanged were simple. I choose you, in storms and sunrises. Rings, matching silver with etched waves, slipped on with trembling fingers, sealing promises forged in fire. Reception spilled into a nearby brewpub, laughter toasting IPAs and Sophia's tamales. Theo, now married himself, clinked glasses. To love that outlasts the rain. Elias's sister from Boise flew in, a botanist with tales of Idaho wildflowers, bridging gaps with her warmth. Night ended in the bungalow, now home, bodies entwined under a quilt stitched by Sophia, whispers of forever. Winter wrapped them cozy. Gail's chapbook released to quiet acclaim, launches in Portland and Olympia drawing queer crowds hungry for his voice. Readings became catharsis. Standing under spotlights, reciting Ring of Tides, lines of commitment amid tempests. Elias attended when possible, his presence a silent chorus. But marriage amplified stakes. Elias's adjunct gig expanded to full-time at the community college, commuting swallowing hours. Gail balanced edits with a creative writing workshop at the LGBTQ Center, mentoring youth like Alex, now a published poet, his chapbook dedicated to the professor who saw me. Jealousy flickered rarely, doused by trust's steady flame. Holiday cards arrived. Sophia's scrawled with hearts, Ramon's typed but sincere. New Year's found them on the ferry to Bainbridge, champagne bubbling as midnight bells tolled over the dark sound. To chapters unwritten, Elias toasted, lips chilled from the spray. Spring greened the garden, basil and chiles pushing soil. They hosted brunches. Marisol debating imprints, Diego sharing neonatal miracles. Sophia visited, planting marigolds. For protection, she said, hands in earth. Health held, though fatigue lingered, her laugh of victory. Crisis brewed subtly. Elias's novel sequel stalled, publisher pressing for drafts, his nights at the desk stretching. It's not flowing, he confessed one May dawn, coffee untouched. Afraid it's derivative, your story retold. Gail massaged tense shoulders. It's ours. Make it new. Gail's own project, a novel blending memoir and fiction. Queer Latino youth in the Northwest, gained traction, an agent from New York emailing interest. Excitement buzzed, but imposter syndrome gnawed. Who am I to? Elias silenced with a kiss. The voice they need. Summer scorched unusually, heat waves rippling off pavement. They escaped to the cabin, canoeing coves where seals basked on rocks. Lovemaking by firelight, bodies slick, deepened intimacy, exploring edges, vulnerabilities voiced in afterglow. Back citybound, a letter arrived, university alumni inviting Elias for a panel on ethics in academia. The old scandal's shadow. Decline, Gale asked. Elias pondered. No, face it. With you. The panel in October, autumn chill biting, packed the Husky Union's auditorium. Moderated by the dean who'd investigated years prior, questions probed. How do power dynamics evolve in mentorships turned personal? Elias spoke measured, with consent, communication, and stepping back when needed. His hand found Gale's in the wings, unseen but felt. Q&A turned hostile. A former student, bitter over grades, accusing favoritism. Murmurs rose, but Elias held. My teaching is for all. Love doesn't diminish that. Applause uneven, but afterward, over whiskey in the faculty club, colleagues toasted resilience. Gale, swelling with pride, whispered homeward. You owned it. November marked anniversary. Courthouse vows renewed in the garden. Rain holding off for candlelit dinner. Sophia gifted embroidered linens. Ramon a toolbox. For building life. Winter deepened, holidays layered. They traveled to Guadalajara for Sophia's roots. Cobbled streets, mariachi strains, family sprawling in a hacienda courtyard. Gale's Spanish flowed, cousins toasting El Potague. Acceptance woven in tequila warmth. Elias bonded over soccer, his awkward kicks drawing cheers. Return brought snow, rare and magical, blanketing the bungalow. Gale shoveled paths, Elias brewing cocoa, their world insular yet full. Spring 2028 bloomed with news. Gale's novel sold, auction fever in Manhattan. 6 figures. His agent squealed over call. Shock, then joy, Elias lifting him in spin, garden muddied boots forgotten. Launch prep consumed. Edits in cafes, photo shoots by the locks. Elias's sequel revived, inspired by the trip, chapters of diaspora loves. But under triumph strain. Tours loomed. Gale's cross-country for the book, Elias's West Coast for his. 2 months apart? Gale fretted, packing lists sprawling. We've survived worse, Elias soothed, but eyes betrayed worry. Departure in June, airport kiss lingering, promises of calls. East Coast dazzled. New York readings in indie shops, Boston ivy-clad halls, audiences diverse. Lading's youth clutching copies, eyes mirroring his younger self. Media buzzed. Ramirez's debut pulses with raw heart. Mid-tour, in Chicago's windy loop, a call shattered. Elias, voice cracking. Sophia's taken a turn. Bad. Come home. Flight delayed by storms. Gale paced O'Hare, heart hammering. Texts updated. Pneumonia again. Aggressive. Landed to Tacoma Hospital. Family huddled. Sophia, frail in bed, beckoned. My writer, she breathed, pressing a rosary into palm. Live loud. For me. Elias waited in hall, arms open. She's fighter. Like you. Vigil blurred days. Beeps, infusions, family rotations. Sophia rallied briefly, demanding stories. Gale reading novel chapters, her critiques sharp. More spice, Mijo. Laughter amid tears. Then, a week in, peace. Monitors steadying, color returning. Miracle, doctors murmured. Discharge followed, home care resuming. Gale extended tour break, nesting in Tacoma, cooking with Sophia, hikes with Elias along Narrows trails. Reunion deepened bonds, absences sharpening presence. Fall returned, leaves flaming. Gale's tour wrapped triumphant, book climbing charts. Elias's sequel released to raves, joint interviews electric. Our stories intertwine. On a November eve, anniversary again. They renewed in the garden, vows evolved. Through losses we gain. Winter whispered contentment, holidays warm. Sophia thrived. Ramon retired to fishing. The bungalow echoed laughter, a haven built. Spring 2029. Gail mentored at UW, full circle. Elias tenured, classes on queer lit thriving. Crisis, minor renovation floods, family squabbles, but met with grace. Summer solstice, cabin fire, they dreamed. Adoptions, travels. Love, matured, held multitudes. Years layered like Seattle's fog, each season etching deeper grooves of shared life. By 28, Gail's novels stacked shelves. A trilogy on immigrant dreams and desires, translated to Spanish, his readings drawing lines from Oaxaca to Oslo. The bungalow evolved. Nursery prepped with neutral tones. Adoption papers pending. Dreams of family whispered over breakfasts of huevos rancheros. Elias, at 44, chaired his department, advocating curricula inclusive of voices like Gail's. Their marriage, a quiet legend in queer circles, inspired panels. From scandal to sanctuary, Sophia's health waxed, waned, remissions marked by garden parties, relapses by hospital stints. Ramon doted, his mill-honed hands gentle braiding her wig. "She's my north," he'd say, echoing Gail's vows. Summer 2030 shimmered promise. Approval came. A sibling set, Mia 6 and Luca 4, from Seattle's foster system, siblings of mixed heritage, eyes wide with cautious hope. Homecoming day, the agency van pulled up, kids tumbling out clutching stuffed orcas. Gail knelt, heart full, welcome home. Chaos bloomed joyful. Finger paints on walls, bedtime stories of selkies and poets. Elias excelled dad, building forts from couch cushions, teaching Luca guitar chords. Nights, after tucking in, they'd collapse laughing, bodies reconnecting in the hush. Fall brought routines. School drop-offs in the Volvo, PTA meetings where Gail advocated for gender-neutral bathrooms. Sophia babysat, her lap a throne of tales in Nahuatl. But under idle tremors. Elias's novel forebrewed, but writer's block gripped. Too domestic, he grumbled. Lost the edge. Gail massaged temples. Edge is here. In the mess, the love. Gail's fourth book toured Europe, leaving Elias with double duties. Calls from Paris cafes. Mia's drawing whales. Miss your voice. Return healed, but jet lag lingered. Winter holidays. Extended family in the bungalow, tamales steaming, menorah candles flickering. Blended faiths a tapestry. Spring 2031. Mia's school play, her role as tree sprite beaming under lights. Luca's first poem, scrawled, Daddy's words fly like birds. Crisis struck subtle, Sophia's scan showed progression, Mets to bone. Time's short, oncologist said gently. Family rallied, hospice planning, memory books of recipes and rosaries. Gail drove daily, Elias handling kids. Ramon stoic. Sophia's bedside became confessional. Regrets? Few. You Mijo, my pride. Love him fierce. Her passing in June, under solstice sun filtering lace curtains, was serene. Hand in Gail's. Elias's story unfinished on nightstand. Funeral blended. Mass in Tacoma, memorial in Capitol Hill Park. Eulogies weaving faith and fire. Grief hollowed yet knit tighter. Kids sensed, hugs clingier. Ramon moved nearby, grandpa duties a salve. Elias finished the novel, dedicating to Sophia. For mothers who teach us to bloom. Summer mourned, healed. Cabin trips, kids splashing shallows. Releasing lanterns on Mia's birthday. Wishes for Abuela's stars. Fall routines resumed, school buses rumbling. Gail wrote through ache, memoir fragments on loss's landscape. Winter brought light. Hanukkah gelt for Luca Posada processions. New Year's, family circle. Toasts to continuance. Spring 2032. Mia's questions deepened. Where's Abuela? Answers honest, books on cycles. Luca's soccer games, Elias coaching sidelines. Gail's agent pitched screenplay, novel one to film, queer director attached. Additions loomed, LA trips. Crisis peaked. Ramon collapsed mid-fish fry, stroke swift. Hospital again, irony bitter. Recovery grueling, PT sessions, Gail shuttling, Elias tag-teaming childcare. Ramon rallied, Speech slurred but spirit intact. Not done yet. Got grandbabies to spoil. Fall stabilized. Adaptive aids in his apartment. Family dinners adaptive. Pureed pozole, laughter over spills. Winter holidays adaptive joy. Wheelchair parades, stories by fire. Spring 2033. Film greenlit. Gale consulting script in Silver Lake bungalows. Elias joined weekends. Hollywood's gloss clashing their grit. Kids thrived. Mia's poetry club. Luca's chess tournaments. Adoption anniversary picnics. Cake-smeared faces. Summer escape. Road trip to Yellowstone. Geysers erupting like emotions. Hot. Unpredictable. Crisis minor. Mia's school bully. Taunts of, two dads weird. Gale-mediated workshop on empathy. Her resilience blooming. Fall book fair in NYC. Family cameo, kids wide-eyed at skyscrapers. Winter quiet. Snow rare. Cocoa nights planning. Europe backpack post-film. Spring 2034. Premiere in Toronto. Red carpet awkward. Gale in borrowed tux. Elias dapper. Reviews raved. Tender triumph. Crisis. Post-fame scrutiny. Tabloid digging old scandal. Lawyers quashed, but stress peaked. Elias's insomnia. Gale's migraines. Therapy renewed. Couple sessions unpacking. Fame's a mirror. Shows our cracks. Summer retreat. Oregon coast. Dunes and driftwood. Vowing grounded. Fall teaching. Gale adjunct at UW. Elias mentoring grads. Winter solstice. Family ritual. Lanterns for Sophia. Ramon. Spring 2035. Mia 10. Luca 8. Birthdays blended. Piñata and dreidel. Gale's fifth novel brewing. Elias's series complete. Crisis. Ramon's decline. Dementia creeping. Care facility chosen. Visits ritual. Summer transition gentle. Stories sustaining. Fall clarity. Acceptance. Joys and smalls. Ramon's grin at Luca's goals. Winter fade. Ramon passing peacefully. Hand in Diego's. Grief compounded yet legacy. Gardens planted in their names. Spring renewal. Memorial hike. Scattering ashes in cascades. Summer kids camp. Parents writing retreat. Manuscripts birthed. Fall tours tandem. Families in tow. Winter holidays. New traditions. Resilience's glow. Through it, love endured, tender, tested, true. Decades whispered forward. Time's river carving canyons of memory. At 35, Gale stood taller in his skin. Silver threading his dark waves. Novels a shelf-spanning legacy. Translated globally, curricula staples. The bungalow, now with attic office overlooking the canal, hummed legacy. Mia's teen posters of activists. Luca's guitar leaning in hall. Elias, 51, gray fully claimed, led queer studies initiatives, his memoirs a bestseller among educators. Marriage, battle-scarred yet burnished, modeled endurance. Anniversaries marked with canal cruises, vows refreshed. Kids navigated adolescence. Mia, 14, out as bi, dating a violinist from ballet. Luca, 12, questioning gender, short hair and skirts experimenting. Support scaffold, therapy, pride flags fluttering porch. Sophia and Ramon's absences ached seasonal. Anniversaries with marigold altars, stories sustaining. Extended family wove tight. Diego's kids visiting, Carlos's barbecues. Summer 2040 scorched, wildfires edging cascades. Evac alerts buzzed. Family packing heirlooms, Sophia's rosary, Elias's first edition Whitman. Safe in Portland hotel, air thick with smoke. They bonded over board games, resilience forged. Fall cleared, rains returning. Mia's school project on climate queers, intersectional essays Gale edited, pride swelling. Crisis brewed. Luca's dysphoria deepened, binders and hormones discussed. Consults with endocrinologist, family meetings raw. We love all of you, Elias affirmed, tears shared. Transition supported. Name changed to Luna. They slashed them pronouns slipping natural. School navigated with allies. bullies met with assemblies. Winter holidays inclusive. Trans flags beside menorahs. Luna's first tee-shot celebrated with cake. Spring 2041. Luna's art show. Abstracts of identity waves. Mia's debate team nationals. Queer rights arguments fierce. Gail's biopic announced. Streaming giant optioning life rights. From student to sage. Elias chuckled over scripts. They'll romanticize the office door. Summer film set in Seattle, extras on quad. Gail advising authenticity. Luna interned props, Mia gaffing lights. Crisis. Paparazzi hounding, old photos resurfaced. PR spun narrative. Love's evolution. Fall premiere gala. Family red carpeted, Luna beaming in tux. Mia in gown. Reviews lauded. Authentic anthem. Winter awards buzz, nominations piling. Acceptance speeches. Gail thanking the professor with plans beyond syllabus. Spring 2042. Oscar win. Teary stage grip on Elias's hand. After parties blurred. Home to bungalow quiet. Summer sabbatical. Family gap year, backpacking Europe. Paris cafes, Rome ruins, kids absorbing histories. Fall return. Luna's transition celebrated. Top surgery fundraised via GoFundMe. Community pouring support. Crisis. Mia's breakup heartbreak. First love sting. Gail's midnight talks, Neruda volumes lent. Winter healing, therapy circles, resilience rebuilt. Spring 2043. Luna 16, driver's license. Road trips to Oregon. Mia's college apps, readbound like Elias once. Gail's sixth novel on trans families, dedicated to Luna. Elias's retirement pondered. Adjunct legacy secure. Summer 2044. Empty nest looming. Kids' independence budding. Crisis minor. Health scares. Elias's knee replacement. Gail's routine colonoscopy clear. Fall nest half empty. Mia dormbound. Luna local community college. Winter quietude. Rediscovering duo dates. Tango lessons in Belltown. Spring 2045. Silver anniversary. Vow renewal at courthouse. Same judge. Now retired. Officiating beachside. Summer travels. Japan cherry blossoms. Haiku journals. Fall grandparenting hints. Mia's partner serious. Wedding whispers. Crisis. Luna's coming out evolution. Polycuriosities explored safely. Winter support. Books. Talks. Boundaries honored. Spring 2046. Mia's wedding. Garden ceremony. Gail walking aisle. Luna's art fellowship NYC bound. Gail's memoir complete. Elias editing final passes. Summer farewells. Airport hugs. Empty bungalow echoing. Fall adjustment. Volunteering at center, mentoring anew. Crisis. Elias's mild heart episode. Stents placed. Recovery slow, walks prescribed. Winter rehab. Gratitude journals. Love's quiet mending. Spring 2047. Full recovery. Hikes resuming. Luna visits, gallery show. Mia's pregnancy announcement. Joy rippling. Summer grandpa prep. Nursery assembly. Elias's specialty. Fall baby arrival. Sophia Elena. Namesake cries. Gail holds. Tears. Cycle renewed. Winter holidays expanded. Tiny hands in traditions. Spring 2048. Great uncle duties, Luna's partner introduced. Elias's heart stronger. Legacy lectures. Crisis. Publishing shift. AI threats to authors. Advocacy coalitions formed. Summer protests. Pickets at tech HQs, voices united. Fall victories. Ethics bills passed. Winter reflection. Fireside. Legacies tallied. Spring 2049. Gail 60? Wait. No, timelines soft. Decades blend. Essence holds. Love's quiet revolution. Twilight years gilded soft. Seattle's lights eternal. Gail at 62, hair fully silver. Walked the canal with Elias, 78. Hand in gnarled but sure grip. Bungalow stood sentinel. Gardens wild with Sophia's marigolds. Additions for grandkids' rooms. Legacy sprawled. Novels in libraries worldwide. films Oscared, scholarships in his name for queer Latinx writers. Elias's archives at UW, papers on love's literacies. Kids thrived. Luna, 42, gallery curator in Brooklyn, partners rotating loving. Mia, 44, pediatrician in Tacoma. Sophia Elena, now teen activist. Grandkids. Elena's siblings, chaos of sleepovers, debates over pronouns and playlists. Summer's cabin-bound still, kids grown hosting barbecues, bonfires, stories circling. Crises mellowed. Health check-ins routine, joints creaking but spirits supple. One autumn, Elias's decline whispered. Memory lapses, words fumbling. Diagnosis, early dementia, slow thief. Gale anchored. Journals co-written. Daily walks naming birds. Raven there, love. Winter's gentle. Holidays with Elena's violin. Luna's visits. Spring 2080. Elias's book, Final, on enduring loves. Gale ghostwriting. Crisis peaked. Fall, hospital for pneumonia. Echoes of Sophia. Recovery partial, care home considered. Home, Elias insisted. Bungalow adapted. Fall stabilization, routines ritual, music therapy, Coltrane soothing. Winter solstice. Lanterns for all lost, hands held. Spring 2081. Elena's wedding, Elias in wheelchair, vows tearful. Summer fading. Fewer hikes, more porch sits, sound watching. Crisis. Elias wanders once, found by neighbors, fears grip. Adaptations. GPS, communities. Fall clarity. Acceptance, joys and fragments. Beautiful day, gale. Winter holidays. Carols soft, memories mind. Spring 2082. Birthday 89, party small, cake smeared like kids. Summer quiet, bedside readings, Neruda's sonnets. Elias passes midsummer, sunset gilding room. Last words. My beginning. Grief oceanic, waves crashing, ebbing. Gale mourns public, memorials packed, eulogies from kids. He taught us dawn. Winter alone first, but family fills. Elena's hugs, Luna's art. Spring 2083. Garden weeding, Elias's plot blooming. Summer travels solo. Cabin, memories in wind. Fall writing. Memoir of their arc. Plans unwritten. Winter release. Bestseller. Dedications to the Professor Eternal. Years cascade. Grandkids College, Great-Grand Elena. Gale at 80 Sharp Volunteer Center, mentoring endless. Crisis. Own heart falters, surgery smooth. Recovery. Wisdom's pace. Loves revisited. Summer 2100. Centennial? Timeline's dream. Legacy. Love's echo, rebellion realized. In twilight, Gale sits porch, sound sighing. We made it, whispers to stars. All the way, humanity's grace. In fractures mended, stories sung, hearts unbreaking.